I answered a 911 call that never should have existed. Because according to my screen, the caller wasn't somewhere out on a dark road or stuck in the snow. He was already outside my building. I've worked as an emergency dispatcher for several years in a very rural part of the northern US. When I say rural, I mean some nights we get more calls about deer than people. We only have a few patrol cars covering miles of frozen roads, and during bad weather, help can take a long time to arrive. Our dispatch center isn't fancy. It's a small concrete extension behind the old town hall. No windows in the main room, just glowing screens, radios, and the low hum of heaters fighting the cold. One February night, a heavy snowstorm had shut everything down. Snow had been falling since noon, and by 2 a.m., the outside world felt completely dead. No calls, no radio chatter, just silence. Then, at exactly 2:14 a.m., one of the emergency lines lit up. I answered like I always do. 911, what's your emergency? No response. At first, I thought it was a pocket dial, but it wasn't quiet. I could hear wind blasting into the microphone, and underneath it, breathing. Slow, heavy, wet. Like someone standing outside in the freezing air after running. I tried again, keeping my voice calm. Sir or ma'am, can you hear me? Nothing. So I started a location trace, and that's when my stomach dropped. Cell phone locations out here are usually terrible. You get a wide circle and a lot of guessing. But this time, the system locked on instantly. The blue dot wasn't on a highway. It wasn't at a farmhouse. It wasn't even on the street. It was sitting directly on top of my building. According to GPS data, the caller was standing in the employee parking lot, right outside the dispatch center. I pulled up the exterior security camera. Snow was coming down so hard it distorted the image, almost like static. But after a moment, I saw him. A man stood in the middle of the lot, bundled in a heavy winter coat with the hood pulled tight. He wasn't moving. One hand was in his pocket, the other held a phone to his ear. I told him I could see him and ordered him to step away from the building. Slowly, he tilted his head back and looked straight into the camera. The breathing stopped. Then he spoke, calm, polite, almost friendly. You should really fix your back door. It doesn't always latch when it's this cold. My chest tightened. Before I could respond, he added something worse. You should also be more careful about where you leave your things. He knew things no stranger should know. I radioed for backup immediately, but the closest unit was at least 20 minutes away. When I looked back at the camera, the parking lot was empty, but the call didn't disconnect.
I'm not there yet, the man said softly through the line. I just wanted to make sure you were awake. Then he said my street name, my house. He described it perfectly, the color of the siding, the front porch, even the light glowing in the living room. My hands started shaking. My wife was home. Then he paused, like he was smiling. Someone's watching the house for me, he said. My friend is parked nearby. I grabbed my phone and started texting my wife, telling her to lock every door and hide, praying she was awake. That's when I heard it, behind me. The sound of the back door handle, slowly turning. The magnetic lock failed. On the hallway camera, I watched the door swing open as snow blew inside. A moment later, the man stepped in, brushing snow from his shoulders like he had all the time in the world. He looked up at the camera and waved. "I told you it was broken," he said. He leaned his forehead against the steel door separating us. "You sent police to my family," he whispered. "Last year." I told him I didn't know who he was. He laughed softly. "Oh, I remember you." Then his voice changed. "And I know you have a little girl."
He gave me a choice. Open the door and he'd call his friend off. Wait for the police and my family would suffer for it. I refused to open it. He slammed his body against the steel door again and again, screaming. The frame rattled. For a moment, I thought it might give. Then everything went quiet. Seconds passed. Too quiet. Then, faintly, I heard sirens. The man stopped. "Game over," he said calmly. Moments later, deputies rushed into the hallway and tackled him to the floor just feet from where I stood. When I finally called my wife, she was locked in the bathroom with our child, crying. She told me a car had been parked near the house earlier and had sped away right after my message. Police later found footprints near our garage. Someone had been watching. The man was identified that morning. Months earlier, I had taken a call from a terrified woman reporting her son was violent and armed. Officers were dispatched. The situation escalated, and the son was arrested and sentenced to prison. The man who broke into the dispatch center was his brother. He blamed me. He had studied my schedule, tracked my home, waited for a storm that would keep help far away. The worst part wasn't the break-in. It was his phone. Investigators found messages between him and the man watching my house.